All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Geek Garage podcast. I am your host, David Dassaw. Ted is not with us this episode, this week. He is taking a little break, but we do have a good friend in his stead. Hello, Andrew Knollenberg. How are you, good sir?
I am doing fan-frickin-tastic. How are you?
Man, I'm so glad that you asked. I'm doing excellent. But not as excellent as you are, I think, because you're like, I don't know, you're internet famous now, right?
Uh,
Is that what we call it?
I I don't know what you could. I mean, I have recently um had some mild success on TikTok
Right. Yeah.
doing voices, and that has been fun.
Yeah. And we're definitely going to get to that here in a little bit. But no, Andrew, seriously, thank you so much for taking the time to come back on the podcast. We're going to basically do a little catch up here in just a bit and talk about what you've been up to. But of course, we gotta get through our traditional pre-roll topics and call to actions. So, yeah, if you are new to the podcast or haven't listened in a while, these first couple of things are for you. We just launched our Geek Garage Creations. Sorry, it's still early. Coffee's still kicking in. Geek Garage Creations, which is our merch shop on our website. So if you go to geekgaragepodcast.com/shop, um, we have some cool merch there for you. We have custom made t-shirts, stickers. We're uploading all kinds of cool stuff every day. So if you are interested in purchasing some merch that is made by yours truly, then hit us up on there. You can buy stuff directly from our website. It's pretty neat. Um, we also have Comic Corner, which is a supplemental blog post thing that Ted and I have been doing the last month or two, where we write about comics that we have been reading or have read, and we talk about how we feel about them and do some spoiler and non-spoiler type reviews. So definitely check that out as well. We have a kind of sort of new Facebook group page on Facebook. That didn't need to be further explained upon. It's called Geek Garage Podcast Fans and Listeners. If you just go to Facebook and search that, or click on the link in the podcast note description, you can find it there. It's basically where we have all of our like nerdy ass conversations and polls and stuff. And then lastly, we have our Patreon. If you enjoy supporting your friends and local artists and content creators, you may do so for us. And speaking of Patreon, we are currently running a special for the month of August where uh, current patrons and new patrons get a custom made sticker and t-shirts, kind of aforementioned from the Geek Garage Creations bit. You get those in addition to all the usual perks you get from being a patron donor, and that applies to both tiers, the $2 and $5 tier. So if you are interested in supporting us monetarily via Patreon, you can do that. You can just go to Patreon and search for Geek Garage Podcast, or you can click on the link also in the description. Um, and lastly, regarding Patreon, we have a new Patreon subscriber yesterday. Mimi Batiglia, who was featured on our podcast a couple episodes ago, she she just subscribed yesterday, and we are very excited to have yet another patron on board, and be able to give them stuff in return for supporting our show. So we're very excited about that. But yeah, that about does it for all of our pre-roll shit. And we can go ahead and get this train a rolling. Andrew, you ready?
Yes. You did not discuss any form of trains before we started.
I
Is there
wasn't told there was going to be
is
trains.
there is there some is there something I should have brought, or uh
You didn't bring your little choo-choos?
um I got nothing for that one.
All right, yeah, we're gonna hit the funky music and get this shit show on the road. So we're back. Andrew, once again, thank you so much for coming back on. You you helped jumpstart this podcast.
I had a hand. I dabbled.
I remember coming to you one day and I was like, so I have an idea, and you were like, I'm already on board. This is how supportive
You could have told me, like, my idea is we're going to abduct the elderly, put them into an ice cream truck, and I would have had to have just, like, go with whatever that plan was. Like,
Yes.
but hey, I'm glad
You,
I'm glad it wasn't that.
right.
So
It was something a little bit more constructive
yeah.
and had less to do with the
But if
elderly.
you ever just get in the mood to, like, Jimmy club some old people and throw them in a van, I'm not your guy for reasons why I may be incriminated. Let's anyone listening to this that might be a member of law enforcement, I do not want to do any of those things. This is all for jokes and for fun.
Right. Yes, it's all hypothetical, all rhetorical, and not based on actual fact, history, or future actions.
Correct.
Yes.
Totally.
Um, but yeah, I remember coming to you in your apartment, and I was like, I have an idea. Like, I want to do a podcast. Like, it's, I've been listening to a bunch of them, and they seem like a lot of fun to do. And you were like, great, do it. And I was like, will you
Do it.
help me start it? Because I don't think I can do it alone. And you're like, I got to be honest with you. Like, yes, I'll help you. And you were there for, I think, about the first. That was very anticlimactic, right?
Yeah, I was like waiting for some kind of big reveal or like John Williams music to start, and that didn't happen. But great job, keep going.
I don't. It's so hard to encapsulate that night where I came over and we were talking about.
Yeah, you came over and were like, I want to do, and you're like, I want to do a podcast, and I was just like, all right, what do we got to do that? And I just wanted to make everyone, like, I just wanted to make sure that, like, you had something that was uniquely yours that you could take
Right.
on. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to, like, be permanently a part of it. So I'm really glad. I mean, considering that we used to do this on my coffee table that I don't even own anymore in my
Right.
apartment living room, and then now you've got your own dedicated space in your house for that. So I think it's
Yeah.
an actual
A huge
listeners
step
and
up.
people that download, and you've got
I know.
Patreons and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, there you go, man. So super
Yeah.
cool.
It's
What's going on?
yeah. It's definitely grown a lot since those first 5 or 6 episodes where I lugged all my shit to your apartment and we set up on your tiny little coffee table, and it was
Yep.
me, you, and Connor, and we just all we did was like conversations that we would already have to begin with. Like, we'd
Right.
talk about the MCU, we'd talk about Netflix original series, we talked
Hmm.
about movies, stuff that we would already talk about. But the only thing that was different was we had microphones in front of us, and
Right.
we recorded it, and that was basically the basis of the original idea for the podcast, was just
Hmm.
creating this conversation and back and forth that people would kind of want to be a part of, both as a host and listeners, and just hear people talk about nerdy shit from movies to comic books to other fandoms, Harry Potter, Star Wars,
Right. And it
cosplay, anime.
gives us an excuse to tell anyone, it's like, listen, I have to do some very serious content creation and work, which in essence is just an excuse for me to finish this handle of whiskey and talk about video games for the next 3 hours before I throw up. But
Exactly.
this is work. This is work. It's important.
I promise this is work,
I
even though it
promise.
costs.
I promise this is work. I don't mind this Popeye's chicken sandwich I'm also eating while we're doing work.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it was an excuse to get together and drink. But that's the beauty of podcasts. Like, within itself, is there's basically no rules. I mean, I don't want to say that there's no rules, but like, it's
I
definitely
think
less
it is possibly necessary to have some kind of microphone, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, but in terms of like overall like content and the way that you structure things, like, it's it's the fucking Wild West compared to like traditional radio. And I
I'm your
think that's
Huckleberry.
Right, and I think that's the reason why podcasting has gotten so popular over the last, several years. But no, all that said, I always feel like I need to thank you and Connor, of course, for helping me kind of lift it up off the ground and get it in motion.
Yeah, you're doing great.
So yeah. God, anytime you say you're doing great, it brings me back to the Olive Garden days where anytime you say
S-
you're doing great,
Somebody would
it's
drop something on themselves or whatever, and you just look at them and just go, "You're doing great."
you're yeah, so it's always like just at the very least a tiny bit of sarcasm. At the very most,
I
it's full on sarcastic.
I have a quick, funny, like, just tidbit of that. So, like,
Yes,
we
please.
we used to do that all the time, and that you're right that you're doing great almost became a negative thing. It wasn't even a positive
It was our
anymore.
own
It was
personal
our own
thing.
personal way of saying, fuck you,"
Yeah.
But so years later, I was helping open up a whole new restaurant, and you're doing these massive groups of training, and there's people that are learning, and I mean, we're talking, I mean, first day there's like 100 people there, and if you're a brand new person in that scenario, you're like, kind of, it might be a little bit intimidating, whatever. And this poor kid, like, he was basically doing like a role play thing of like what he's supposed to do at a table or whatever, and he fucked something up, and I could not hold it back, and I'm supposed to be the leader here, and as soon as he did that in front of all these people, I'm like, "You're doing great." And there's this eruption of laughter, and this poor guy, I don't even think he came back after that, to be
Oh
honest with you.
no.
I can remember his face, and I mean, obviously, like, it's been a while, so like, I don't remember everybody from the beginning, but I just
Sure.
remember after that event, like, never fucking seeing that kid ever again.
Oh
And
no.
I'm like, "Oh shit." Like,
Man.
I just fucked that whole scenario up.
Well, man, like I mean, that is fucking funny. But I don't, the restaurant business is just not meant for everyone. I think everyone should do some sort of retail, like period, because it brings your humility level way
It's
up. Like
definitely taught me a lot about how to interact with basically any kind of human being, um,
exactly.
and also patience, and
Hmm.
how to let things roll off your shoulders that aren't
Yep.
important, and continue to focus on your job. And I mean, it's
Growing a
almost
thick
like,
skin.
yeah, I mean, oh, definitely, you definitely build an emotional armor
Hmm.
from working in that type of field. So I mean, but hey, can't wait to get the fuck out of it though. So that all being
with, with
said,
all that said, yeah, like I can't wait to
oh
ditch this
no,
bitch.
it's seriously like looking at someone's like look like I'll be like 75 looking at some like 19-year-old, and I'll be like, please don't be like me. Follow your dreams. Please get out. Don't let them suck you in. That's how they get you.
Oh
Do
my god.
something. Do anything.
Fly, you
Anything
fools!
but this. Go! Fly, you fool.
Fuck. Yeah. No,
I think that's as good as a transition as any into talking about what we're going to talk about.
right. Which is kind of funny considering that we've done very little talking on what we'll be talking about. We brought up a
Yeah.
couple ideas.
Yeah, this is a full 16 minutes of nothing.
I mean, like we started chatting yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, you wanna be on the podcast?" And you were like, sure." I can't remember exactly what
I
your
basically was
answer
like,
was.
what are you doing tomorrow? Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically our lives now. Is like it's either planning 3 fucking months in advance, or like what are you doing in 16 seconds?
No, I mean, no shit, because now, I mean, like, just, and we'll talk more about what I got going on later, but like, just because I've now kind of got this social media presence thing going,
Hmm.
it is like, I mean, it's a job now. And
Right.
so like now that I kind of look at like what my day-to-day job looks like, schedule, and then what I'm trying to do with this, I literally have to take advantage of every hour of
Right.
so-called free time. So when you asked me, I looked at my schedule and I was like, yep, I've got a window there. Let's do it. Like, let's just
Yeah.
do it now, because I don't want to say, yeah, we'll do it sometime. Like, no, then it won't happen. Let's just
Exactly.
do it right now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of this whole remote recording situation. And you got, a little space in your apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I have a space. We both have microphones, so just kind of the stars aligned very briefly
Mm-hmm.
for us. And yeah, it's kind of cool because you haven't been on the podcast in over a year. The last episode was episode 30, and here we are on 65. And it was last year's MTAC
We were at
when
oh man, MTech.
yeah.
Yeah, it sucks that
Um,
COVID fucked everything up.
COVID fucking steamrolled everything. Like
Well, I mean,
there's
it is what it is, but that's just
it is, yeah,
it
for
sucks.
sure.
It sucks that I mean, it's not like I'm a massive anime watcher, but that just the social and the fun part of that
100%.
con is why I want to go there. I mean, I think it's always funny why when we were always making those videos back in the day
Yeah,
and
good old
interviewing
Ned and
people, and
Ted.
yeah, Ned and Ted, they'd ask me, so like, what kind of anime do you watch? And I'm like sheepishly, I'm like, I don't,
Dre-
because
yeah.
I didn't want to like, I don't know, come off as insulting or anything. It's like, it's just it's funny. I go to a convention that is about a topic I legitimately don't give two shits about,
Mhm,
but I dig it's the cosplay. I like the
for sure.
costumes and all the other stuff that comes along with it. So it's sad that we didn't get to do it this time, but hopefully the
Yeah,
world will semi go back to normal next year and we can try again. So
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely missed my MTAC peeps. Like we've been as a podcast and also like as
That's right. You
just
started bringing
as
it. You started bringing that or
right.
bringing this to conventions.
Yeah, we did get our start last year. We went to a KaiCon 2019 in Lebanon, and that was kind of our first foray into bringing the podcast to the public. Basically, we well actually I guess MTAC a couple months
I was
prior
gonna say
was
you did MTech because I was in that.
right, but
Yeah.
that was like strictly like guerrilla marketing style. We're just walking up to people, we're passing out buttons, and you helped out a lot with that too. We just because you have so much more charisma than I do. I've had to like learn my charisma and like absorb it through external resources, whereas you, it just comes naturally. You're able to go up to people and be like, "Listen to this podcast, or else," and they're like,
No,
"What?"
no. Remember, the key to that is, hey, give me your fucking phone.
I'm gonna subscribe for you. Just
Give me your.
eliminate the middleman.
Hey, can I see your phone for a second? Here's a Jello shot. Now get the fuck out of here.
That's seriously, that's what we would do with Two Player Media. Was like after interviewing cosplayers, we would just be like, "Hey, give me your phone."
Give me your phone. You want some alcohol? All right, bye.
Yeah. And that was just it was easier that way for both parties to expedite the process of getting them involved
not,
in either Two Player Media or the podcast. And
not to derail this again, but
sure.
when my girlfriend brought the big ass cooler full of Jello shots, you talk about like a cheat code for that whole process,
Right.
because I mean, it was fun that we did get to the point with Ned and Ted that we could just basically stay in a spot and people would like come to us and want to be in it instead of us like walking around hunting people down. But it did
Yeah.
it did help when I saw somebody that I have never interviewed before or whatever, and I could be like, "Hey, what's up? I like your cosplay. You want a fucking Jello shot?" And then I'm like, "Hey, while we're over here, I got this microphone, and we should
Right.
interview you."
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was fucking hilarious.
No,
And we,
that
we were just like giving those out like they were M&Ms.
I mean, I think that's what you're supposed to do with Jello shots. I mean, it yields so many when you make a batch. Like, it's meant to be
Yeah,
shared and passed around. Take one down, pass it around.
Caitlin
Um,
Caitlin turned into Willy Wonka that day.
I'm Willy Wonka. Yeah, you kind of mentioned with that, like the the idea of like kind of flipping it on its head, the idea of like promoting and whatnot, where people come to you instead
Hmm.
of going to other people. Um,
Hmm.
that was kind of the idea that we had with the podcast, like wanting to go forward, like
Hmm.
the guerrilla marketing thing with MTAC. Like it was fun, but we knew traditionally speaking, that's kind of why you paid for a booth or you did a table swap where it came off less aggressive because people could come to you instead. I mean,
Right.
and we had pretty good experience. It was decent at a KaiCon. Granted, we didn't really have any trade show banner or anything, so people like had to take kind of a risk coming up to us because they didn't know who the hell we were. Like we had no signage or anything. But
I
at
could just,
Galaxy,
who's this fucking guy?
seriously, that's what it was like. It was me, Tiny, and Ted, big giant, and we had like our Geek Garage buttons on the table,
Oh
and so
my
people,
god.
if they wanted to know who we were, they literally had to walk up to the table and be like, "Hey, who the fuck are you guys?"
Should have just had Ted stand up and just be like, "Hey, come
Oh no,
fucking look at this."
oh, like we were standing the entire time. Like it was our first experience doing that. So we didn't know that like the quote unquote tradition or, what you typically do is sit. Cause like a couple of people around us were standing, but it was more because they had like more interactive things to do or they were handing things out like flyers for another convention. So it wasn't like a situation where you would sit down and let people come to you. So we just kind of stood, and I think people found that maybe a little bit more aggressive, especially since Ted is like 8 feet tall.
Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
he's a gentle giant, but yeah. Anyways, that's besides the point. But yeah, GalaxyCon was a vast improvement on our AkaiCon situation. We between July and November we were able to order a banner with our logo on it so we could hang it up and people would actually know who the fuck we were. We had our I think you saw pictures of that Yoda that we bought with the
Yeah.
the plastic bowl, and we put like candy in there so people would like come by. That is a little bit of an incentivizer for people to stop by. um and then of course we made different kinds of buttons. We had our traditional button and then that 8-bit button that's like black and red and it's got the 5 different icons on it.
Hmm.
um and yeah, it was a vast improvement over our kind of setup for a KaiCon. So uh, yeah, that ended up working out well. And then the plague hit and derailed all of our events. But like you said, such is life, and hopefully it'll be back, uh, in full regalia in 2021. So
Hmm.
yeah, but yeah, this episode is kind of it's less about me and more about you. I mean, of course, like I said, you haven't been on the podcast in a while,
Hmm.
and I kind of wanted to catch up a little bit. I think the last time we had a really solid conversation was, I mean, aside from our FaceTime a couple weeks ago, we were both drunk.
I
And
was so fucking hammered.
you were like making dinner. You were like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing? I'm really sorry that I haven't talked to you in a while, but I'm really drunk right now, and I'm making chicken fingers." And I was like, "Yeah, buddy, I'm stoned out of my fucking gourd. I'm making stickers." And you're like, "Aren't we a fucking pair?"
um yeah, I don't drink as much as I used to.
Yeah,
'Cause-
you're telling me that yesterday.
yeah, but that was one of the yeah, I think that was like day 3 in a row of like, let me go get drunk in my kitchen, cook, and call one of my friends. And it was just like, I don't know what the hell was wrong with me. I'm just like, hey, look at these fucking chicken thighs that I got going on, man. And they're just like, that's neat. You okay? Yeah, I'm gonna butter baste them with rosemary and thyme. And what are you doing? Like, winding down, about to go to bed because I'm an adult. That's fucking cool.
No, you called me at, like, the perfect time of night, like, you're
So
like,
funny.
"Hey, buddy, like, I know like, I'm drunk right now, but we haven't talked since your birthday in January,
Yeah.
so, what are you
I
doing?" And I was like, "I'm fucking doing nothing. I'm sitting here making stickers and watching The Office. Like, I'm living my
Hey,
best
that sounds like
life,"
a
and you're
great
like,
night.
"That's
Yeah.
excellent. Let's talk for a while." And,
Yeah, so real talk, I think I touched on this before. You asked like, what the fuck I've been doing forever,
right,
but
yeah.
like so I hit a moment where, and a moment I mean like, I don't know, a long fucking moment, where I wasn't making any content. I
Mhm,
was dissatisfied with the content that I was kind of like, I guess, in the middle of making. And I didn't feel any of that same like excitement or spark to continue with any of the stuff that we were doing. And that's no knock on any of our friends or you or anybody that was ever involved in any of that. That was just me personally being like, I don't think this is funny anymore. I
mhm,
don't think that this is what I want to be doing. And I knew that I had other things that I could do, but I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what um I mean, yeah, like where to start, I guess, is the answer. Like I just didn't know what platform, what sort of content I wanted to do. I just knew that I needed to change. And on top of that, I'm a busy guy with my quote unquote real job. So
mhm.
um yeah, I just hit a rut, man, and I wasn't that's probably why I was drinking in the kitchen and cooking so much, because that was, something I could do. But my wonderful girlfriend and I had a very long conversation one evening where she was basically like, why don't you do it? Like, why aren't you making these things? It obviously makes you happy. Like, it's what you need to be doing. And I just kind of broke me down, and I was like, yeah, I need to get the fuck over myself, and I had sort of touched on that in conversations with you before, which is about
Right.
being like uncertain about this, that, and the other thing. But so, that being said, then one day, over a little staycation that I had, my sister, and her boyfriend does, he's an audio engineer, and
Mhm.
they were like, "Hey, did you want to come do your?" Because I had mentioned like, "Hey, I think I want to do some impressions. I think I want to do like some voices or whatever. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I just want to do that." And I went over to, he's like, well, come over and record them. So I went over there and I recorded like 40 fucking voices saying the same damn thing. And that stupid meme from TikTok, interior crocodile alligator, I drive a Chevrolet movie theater,
Right.
over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, and I was so out of touch that I was like, "Is this a thing now?" Like, what is this line?
Like, is it like hot cross buns? Is it like, the quick brown
Exactly.
fox jumped over the lazy dog? Like, no, it's a song. It's
Right.
part of a song.
Yeah, because, like, when the whole reason why I put TikTok on my phone, and that was, like, last week? Or
Right,
last
right, right,
weekend.
right, right.
The whole reason I put it on my phone was because of you. Like, I really had no reason to get on there. I didn't have any intentions on creating a account for the podcast.
Sure.
I mean, I stay busy enough with the podcast itself and my own family life and whatever,
Mhm.
but I knew that you were going to be on there and I wanted to support you and
Thank you.
follow
Yeah.
you on everything that you were doing. So I was like, well, that's a good enough reason to put it on my phone.
Yeah.
And then I was like, so I was watching that first series that you
Mhm.
did, and I was like, okay, there's got to be something here that I'm missing.
Yeah, I'm missing something.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I didn't even know, because like, dude, again, it was the first I had made a TikTok account a long time ago, honestly,
Hmm.
just to like watch silly videos before I go to sleep, and
Right.
then and I again drunkenly uploaded like three or four impressions that weren't like the best I've ever done, but I just like, I don't know, I just did them. And you're
Sure.
talking like, did that, I had like, probably 10 followers or something like that. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And then
Hmm.
I did this interior crocodile thing over with my sister and her boyfriend, and I just really actually tried. You know, I did ones that I thought I could do really good with, and I just read that, and then I had, you know, TikTok only lets you upload 1 minute maximum, so I broke up
Sure.
that video into 5 parts, and it's sort of funny. And then I realized, I'm like, these people are going to think that's the only fucking thing I know how to say. I was seriously, I started, I uploaded the first one, and it got a great response. People, you know,
Uh-huh.
it started to get some traction. I was like, cool. And I, buddy of mine, Jake Holland, who's doing great on TikTok, and he was really big
Who's that
on
guy?
my,
I don't know who that guy
yeah,
is.
Jake. So Jake is Pizza Beard Party is his handle on there, and
Yeah.
the fact that that brilliant guy created an entire brand for himself based upon his awesome pizza hat and his magnificent beard
It is quite
cracks
beautiful.
me. It's just hilarious. Like, he's so genuine. There's like, it's not even like he's like, you watch his videos and they're just genuine, kind-hearted, silly, innocent, amazing humor. And it's such a breath of fresh air in
Right.
the landscape of other stuff that you see. I mean, including myself, where I'm like, look at me, you know. And then you have him, and he's
Right.
just like so naturally funny, and he's a huge collector too. He collects a lot of things. But anyway, he did a duet
Right.
on that first video, and basically was just like, hey, go follow him, which was awesome of him to do. And then that got all the initial, let's just say, bump in views and some followers. So I uploaded that first
Sure.
video, and I'm like, all right, cool. And then I was like, well, I guess I should upload like every day, or I just need to stay somewhat consistent. So then I had 5 videos of this fucking interior crocodile bullshit. And so I upload the second one, and people are like, that's really cool. And then I uploaded the third one, and like, then people, I mean, it was still like doing well, but then some people were like, do you know how to say other stuff? I started reading those comments,
The
and
only words that you know.
I'm cracking up because I'm like, I got 2 more of these to upload.
Oh no.
So I put up the last 2, and again, it was a mixture of positive, like, that's really good, and hey, seriously, do you fucking know how to say anything else? And so finally, like, I hit I
You should
think
you
I
should
think
just come up with your own hashtag like I promise I know
I
how to say
promise I
more
can say
words.
things. Yeah. Well, because, and they're honestly, the main reason why I chose to say those words over and over again was because there's a guy on TikTok that's, and he's actually a legit voice actor. And
Mhm.
he, let me pull his, forgive me for not telling you his name. Let me
That's okay.
pull him up real quick. His name is um, Lucas Arnold.
Okay.
Lucas Arnold. You can follow him, but he's a legit voiceover artist. The guy built a studio in his closet. Like, it's awesome that he's got that
Oh,
on there. But his impression gimmick that he did, which is brilliant, is he took the line from that song, "I love it when you call me señorita,"
okay.
and he just read that line. And for some reason, just the aesthetic and the sound of just like that line being spoken to you as other characters is just fucking hilarious. And
Right.
he does a John Mulaney impression
Uh
that, and like who the fuck does a John Mulaney? You know what I mean?
right, yeah.
And he crushes that one.
Wow.
And he says, I can't do it. I haven't even attempted that one yet. And it's like, he says the Signorina line over and over again. He's got like 9 parts of that. But his smart thing that he did was he uploaded like one of those parts every now and then with other shit in between. And I didn't know that. I just said, fucking, here you go. And that's why everybody was like, okay, this dude literally, there's something wrong with him. Is he like does he only say crocodile? Is that his own, that's his thing? But yeah, but that's why I chose that, because I thought like, well, that's a thing on TikTok that people watch, is that like memes. So I just try to like do an impressions with memes, and
Right.
I hit I think I hit 10,000 followers in like 5 days, 4 or 5 days, and I uploaded a video
Okay.
thanking everyone for that support, but also making sure they knew, number one, what my actual voice sounded like, and also too that, hey,
Right.
I'm gonna make other shit. I promise. So And then I did.
um
I am now, David. I am now making videos that are of other other things. So if you are
Words.
someone that wants to check out my TikTok, it's at Don Noleone, DonKnollEone, or you can just search for Andrew Knollenberg on TikTok. I'm the only one on there. Um, this if you are already a TikTok follower of mine and you're listening to this, I promise that I know how to say other stuff, and the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So
Right.
anyway,
So I want to back up just a tiny
sure.
bit. So like
Sorry,
in
I
between,
rambled.
no, no, it's okay. So in between, like you sitting down with Caitlin, your girlfriend, and getting together with your sister and her
Uh huh.
boyfriend,
Uh huh.
and getting that situation set up. How did you decide on TikTok as like your avenue? Like you wanted to, you basically wanted to start doing things again.
Yeah.
You wanted, you knew that like instead of trying to rely on me and Connor and Dylan and the rest of our group of friends to like do videos, it would be easier for you to start doing impressions again, which is something that you know and everyone else knows that you're just incredibly good at, and that you can just, you know, bang them out one after another. um Mostly
Mhm.
due to, you know, they're having so many in your tool belt, and just, you know, they're easy short videos to make. But how did you decide to take the avenue of TikTok?
Sure. So TikTok to right now. I mean, and there's some other video apps that are also on the horizon that I might start cross posting on, but TikTok is the
Sure.
closest thing to Vine
Right.
right now. And I used to do impressions on Vine,
Hmm.
and I think just because I enjoyed using that app back when it was a thing, when I thought about I'm gonna make short, funny impression videos, it just kind of was like, well, people use TikTok. It's super easy to share. It's super easy to view these and scroll through them and you know find what you want. So I just was like, I'll just fucking use that,
Right.
and that's really it. I mean, it just seemed like the most natural platform for that type of content, so that's why I chose it.
Right. Yeah. And that totally makes sense because, I mean, like you said, after Vine disappeared, it seemed like when TikTok came up, it, aside from the whole like Vine was a maximum of what, like 6 seconds, and TikTok you
Yeah,
said
Vine
is
was
like
letting you
six,
do 6 seconds.
and
TikTok will
then
let you
TikTok
do
is
up to a
60.
minute.
Okay.
Correct.
So
It will
yeah,
let
I
you do
mean,
yeah
aside
up to a
from
minute.
that difference, aside from that difference of duration, it seemed like its natural successor. So it definitely makes sense that, you know, you would choose TikTok as your platform. But I just wanted to get
Yeah.
little bit of clarification for myself and for the listeners out there, just how you made that decision to
Well,
go
because if
from
you think
like.
about it too, think about the type of. I mean, so you think about how people use TikTok. They're either sitting on the couch or sitting on in the bed at night, and they're
Hmm.
just kind of scrolling, looking for
Right.
stuff to watch, just to like laugh or pass the time. And because it's all short stuff, and your ability to quickly go between video to video to video, so I didn't want to. I figured that was the best place. Like, well, here I'll just like upload this quick thing real quick of me doing these voices, just like one liners basically, and I that way I hold someone's attention long
Right.
enough on the with what they're watching before they just scroll away from me. I didn't want to do some kind of long form thing, and I just tried to adapt like what kind of impressions I was doing to the platform. That was what I decided to do. So yeah, just like TikTok just seemed like the best place to do that. And then also too, it's very easy to cross post between Instagram and Facebook. And then
Okay.
there is
Yeah.
a website called Linktree, and I have that set up as my website that is available on my TikTok. So if you click on that little link, it then opens up this thing where anything else that I appear on consistently, you can click
Uh-huh.
on that and follow me on that platform too. So it's
Oh
just
wow,
very, it's
that's
kind of,
cool.
it's yeah, it's super easy. I got the link tree idea from all the other people that are doing pretty well on TikTok. I noticed that they all had that thing set up, and when I looked at it, I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing, you know. And
Right.
so um it's like one click and you can just see the other places that you can find your favorite content creators, and so I just started using that as well. So
Cool.
um yeah, anywho, so that's the long answer of why I like using TikTok. So
Sure. So you've primarily been doing like, excuse me, voice acting and impressions and stuff. Is that kind of what you plan on doing
yes.
going forward, like just for the most part?
My intention is to upload at least 5 times a week, which so
Okay.
far I've been doing that. I mean, I just started, but
Yeah.
yay for
Sounds like a
me
good schedule.
for doing it, you know. But
Right.
what I do is I sit down and I think of things that are funny to say, or I look at actual scenes from some of the actors that I impersonate, and I just do them, you know. And I'll sit in this room for a few hours and just record like as many as I can,
Hmm.
and then edit them down to TikTok uh, length and upload accordingly, and just kind of, you know, put, so I can sit here and do like 20 videos, edit them, have them in the can, as they say, and then each day just upload one at a time. And that's what I do. So it's that's the best way for me to balance my schedule, is to do it that way. My, as far as content going forward, yes, I'm going to be doing voices, I'm going to do impressions, I'm going to do also not just impressions, but like original characters based upon observations of funny things in life. So just, you know, maybe I'll do what I think a overwhelmed mom at the grocery store with her 3 kids would sound like, and try to do like relatable type jokes, but with the focus of me trying to do the funniest or most entertaining type of voice to fit, you know, characters like that. Because my I would, you know, other than doing impressions and jokes and stuff like that, what I really want to do with myself here is actually be a voiceover artist, whether that's for audiobooks or cartoons, video games, movies, whatever. You know, like I, you know, just let me read a script and talk pretty for you. That is what I want to do. So I think
Right.
TikTok's a fun place for me to put up content for now that is based on that type of thing. So
That yeah,
I'll do
that's awesome.
YouTube, and I'll do YouTube and probably Twitch and all that stuff eventually. But that's, I'm good with what I got right now.
Is there anything else regarding like TikTok, like your plans going forward? Like, is there any new impressions that you're kind of working on, like that
Yeah,
you thought
yeah,
of that are
yeah,
like I want to get better at this one. I'm not great at it at the moment, so I want to work
yeah,
on it and then maybe do it
absolutely.
in the future.
So it's, what's funny is every time I record any impression video where I do several in a row, and when I finish it, I always then, like later on, I'll be doing something else, and I think about like, "Ah, fuck, I forgot to do this person or that person," you know. So
Right.
I wrote down everything that I legitimately know how to do, so I wouldn't, you know, just be able to just go down the list. But then what's been cool is I did ask for requests from people that watch me, what they would like to hear. And so I can, number
Hmm.
one, if I know how to do that already, well then I'll just do it, and that'll be something fun for that person to watch. But then also, if it's something I don't know how to do, that's a challenge for me to try to learn how to do that, and that's really fun. That's really exciting for me. I just uploaded today
Yeah.
actually a video with I was doing David Attenborough from BBC, and that's something I've
Yeah,
learned
and
within the
that's brand
last
new, right?
couple of months. So
Yeah, yeah. I was about to say, like, I when you showed me that video right before we started recording, I was like, I don't think I've seen slash heard you do this voice before, um, and I don't know what that dude sounds like, but I can already tell that it was a pretty good impression.
have you ever seen Planet Earth or Life or any of those?
So a while ago, like several
Okay,
years ago,
because that's him.
so
That's who that is.
okay. Yeah.
I remember watching those documentaries going and just hearing him talk, and I'm like, this dude has my favorite voice I have ever heard, ever.
Yeah,
And it
it's
just it
it
he could it's sort of like how Morgan Freeman is, but just different in the fact that like you want this guy to read you a bedtime story every day. Like you just want
exactly.
you want to be laying there about to go night night with David Attenborough singing you to sleep.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's so good. It for some reason anytime like someone talks about Morgan Freeman like and his ability to be able to read anything and put you to sleep because his voice is so soothing, it makes me think of that scene from Parks and Rec where Jeremy Jam is like, I'm not a Freeman guy. I find his voice very grating.
That Jeremy Jam, that dude played that annoying ass motherfucker so well. That's why
I know.
when Ron punched him, I was like, finish him. You know,
Dude,
like
right? Like, but
that.
no, you are 100% correct. Like, he played that character so
Oh, so
fucking
good.
good.
So
Like, it
good.
was like it was like no other comedic like quote unquote villain
Yeah.
I've never seen ever seen before. Like it was just it was so weird
That's a
and
good
like some of
that
his lines were just so random. Like he when she was like, "You want to get a hot dog?" He's like, "You know, I have irritable bowel syndrome. You racist." I'm like, "What the fuck does that
where does
even
that come
mean?"
from? Well, and I don't know how much of that was improv or writing, but if some whoever wrote the I find Morgan Freeman's voice irritating and like grating or whatever is a fucking
Uh huh.
genius.
No.
That is so funny.
Right. Well, like the show creators, Greg Daniels and Mike Schur were the ones, same creators of The Office.
Right,
So,
right.
and they ended up leaving The Office, I think, a year or two before The Office ended, so they could get a leg up on Parks and Rec. So, I'm sure that they took a lot of the writers from The Office with
Oh,
them to create Parks and Rec. So
that shit's so
that's
funny.
yeah, that's kind of why both shows have that like conversational driven
And I
storyline.
believe it was them that sat down with Nick Offerman to create Ron Swanson.
Yeah, it's so funny to learn more about Nick Offerman and realize that
Speaking of voices that are amazing, that's another
I
person.
know he's got an amazing voice, but like Nick Offerman and his character of Ron Swanson, like they have a few similarities, but for the most part, they're pretty different people.
They are, but the whole woodworking thing is that's
Right? Yeah,
legit. I
that
mean,
is.
and
eh,
his wood shop in the show that was actually Nick Offerman's shop.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And he does actually play the saxophone too. Like
Yes, plays the
his
saxophone. Nick Offerman can play guitar. Yeah, Nick Offerman actually like I don't know how much you followed his stand up or any other of his performances, but the dude will sing at most
Oh
of
yeah.
his performances, and he did the Little Sebastian song uh, at one of his
Oh really?
performances. Yeah, and his wife, who plays in real life, his wife is
Yeah, she's
actually
also in a band.
it's well, but she's Tammy. You
Right,
know,
yeah.
yeah, and of course she's incredible too. But
Uh-huh.
there was a performance that Nick Offerman did where he was singing "Bye Bye Little Sebastian," and the backing vocals were done by the rest of his band, and then her also, like she was there too. So it was just funny
Yeah.
seeing Ron and Tammy singing that song, which was
Right.
hilarious.
No, it's their relationship and dynamic on the show was definitely one of my favorite running gags of
Oh,
Parks
when
and
he
Rec.
could smell her.
Right, yeah, she's like, I could smell
She's
the
here.
sulfur coming off of your cloven hoofs.
Tammy, you're looking terrible.
You, you've aged horribly.
You've
You
aged.
son of a
You
bitch.
son of a bitch. Oh my god.
Yeah. I like to think that they pulled the inspiration of them being like sexually charged and magnetized towards each other from
hmm
like real life
Yeah,
because
he
like
always talks about her. Yeah.
yeah always openly talk about how like how they very much have that relationship where
Right.
like they don't go out, they stay in most of
Mm.
the time as long as they're not working, and
We
they
basically stay home and bone.
That's basically it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is the key to a happy marriage
Yeah, don't go
is
anywhere. Just make food and bone. That's that's
right.
that's that's
Rinse and repeat.
rinse. Yeah, exactly. Or not rinse. Or yeah, you should probably rinse. That's how you get itchy
Yeah.
if you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Or crunchy pubes.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
speaking
It's
of
a
speaking of words that you want to hear in different voices, that man has got some crunchy pubes.
well, yeah, I when I set up the podcast, I was going through like the slew of questions they were asking me, like, do you plan on publishing to all these platforms, blah 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 blah, and then it asked me like, would you like to default the the parental rating of your podcast to explicit 100% of the time, and I was like, I better do that.
I better do that because I say fuck like the word and.
Yeah, it fuck is my verbal crutch. Like I use that more than like and but and like I said, because I listen back to myself and I'm like, hey David, why do you sound like a fucking idiot?
Oh God. That you know what? That is interesting though, because when I make these impression videos, I will listen like when I have to listen because like, I think listening to yourself is always weird, but like when I'm
Yeah,
listening to myself just trying to chop them down and edit them, I'm like, God, that fucking sucked. And which cracks me up because my girlfriend or anybody else that's in the room that's like listening to them, they're like, "What are you talking about? Like those are fine. Like upload that one. That's the one you need to upload." And I'm like, "No, fuck that. I'm terrible." Like
yeah.
it's weird. I don't know. It's hard to get a gauge on what is good or not
Nah,
sometimes for your own stuff.
it's definitely good to take breaks during the editing process. I mean, like both you and I learned that pretty early on
Oh dear
when
lord, yes.
like especially with the two-player media like Ned and Ted videos
I'd
and
be
the
sitting
nature
there
time and stuff
editing a Ned and Ted video, and then I would get to a point where I'm like, I'm gonna delete this entire fucking thing.
that weekend did not exist.
Fuck this whole project, and then I would like look at it the next day. I'm like, all right, that's pretty funny. Like,
Yeah, no,
okay,
there is such a thing as like sitting there for too long
yeah,
looking at the same shit over and over again because like it's I mean it's kind of like telling a joke over and over again and then you're wondering if it's even fucking funny anymore
yeah.
because you've told it so many times and like you get in your head too much
Hmm.
and so that's why it's good to just take intermittent breaks every once in a
Which
while.
I think this is part of that was one of the driving forces for me wanting to do the type of content I'm doing now, and then eventually
Sure.
will do more of later. Is every time I make an impression video, well, not what I'm saying, interior crocodile 20,000 times, but like every single little tiny video is a different character. I'm saying something, I'm saying something completely different. I'm trying to like, I don't know. It keeps it fresh for me. I can't make something that other people think is funny or entertaining if while I'm doing it, I'm internally just saying "fuck this." Like that's
Yeah.
so. When I'm making these, I'm legitimately having a great time while I'm sitting
Uh-huh.
there doing it. It's more helpful for me to have somebody else in the room while I'm recording them because it's almost just kind of like a confidence type deal. Because if I'm
Yeah,
by
like you're
myself, I
performing for
will
an audience.
exactly. I need an audience. I need someone to tell me like, maybe not. That's not the best one, or oh, that was a good one. Keep that because I will sit there and delete every fucking recording like
Yeah.
the whole time because I'm just overly judgmental of how it sounds the whole time, and then I don't get anything done because I just deleted 2 hours worth of work. Um, but that's why I'm looking forward to the day where I can have basically hopefully someone will like how I sound and invite me to where they do their work and I can just hold the script, read it, sound pretty, and then leave the editing and the sound stuff to the experts, and that way I
Yeah.
don't overly judge myself.
Yeah, that's actually a good segue to I wanted to kind of touch on like in the distant or not so distant future like your long-term, short-term and long-term goals for like how where you want to take this. Like I mean you might be like, okay, this is good for now, like, just putting videos out on TikTok and challenging myself to do different voices that I've never considered before. But like, do you have a long-term goal? Like, would you like to become like a legit paid voice actor or voiceover person?
That
I-
is
is-
that. I mean, yeah, you said it. I mean, I that is the dream. I mean, I love doing this type of thing. I love recording voiceovers. I love the performance element of, because I've always liked performing. I mean, I love doing theater and stuff like that back in the
right.
day, but this is a good way for me to act or perform or whatever, but in a setting that's more focused on the voice and types of characters. And again, it doesn't have to, do I want to be a full-time impressionist? I mean, I don't think, unless you're a stand-up comic or someone like Frank Caliendo, who's
Sure.
amazing. He's amazing at how many diverse different types of, I mean, he's made a career out of doing impressions, which I think
Right.
is incredible.
Yeah,
He's
he's
one of my
funny as
heroes,
shit.
but he's so good. So that's a rare form of, I mean, he's also a stand-up comic who's very funny
Right.
too. So I
Yeah.
don't see myself necessarily, I don't know if I'm going to do stand-up comedy or do that kind of thing.
I
I mean,
think you could.
I well, I appreciate that.
I think you could be like a really good like you've always been a great storyteller, and you know how to be really succinct, and you can, how to lead, I guess create a narrative, as they say, and lead people along through the story, and like just fucking nail the punchline, or the climax of the story. And it's just something that I've always envied about you, because I've wanted to do it myself, like not necessarily in a stand-up fashion, but just tell a story without going off on like a billion different tangents
Oh,
that
well, yeah,
are not relatable to
I
the
appreciate
end
that.
the end
I
goal. But
I'm not saying I won't try it. I mean that might be something I do, but
sure.
long term, yes, I want to be. I mean, the simple answer is I want to be a professional voiceover person. I want to, whether it's a cartoon, me just reading something and getting
Hmm.
paid for it. Like, I want using my voice to be my job. That's what I want to do, and I it's an interesting passion to have. I legitimately have a obsession with how people sound. I love when I hear a particularly cool sounding voice, whether it's a celebrity, whether it's a regular person, whether it's, I mean, some of my friends have some of my favorite, I mean, hell, I think honestly on my favorite voice on planet Earth is my grandmother's, which
Oh
is
yeah.
such an interesting thing. She, we grew up in Chicago, and she has that classic, sort of nasally Chicago voice, but it is just, for years, that has just been the funniest damn thing ever.
Yeah.
And not I'm not like making fun of my grandmother here, but like, she's such an
Right.
incredible person that her voice just kind of became, I think, iconic because of how amazing she is. So that's just, I get
Uh-huh.
this attachment to certain people's voices. So if it's someone that I do impersonate, then it's because I just love how they sound. Or if I can't do their, for instance, like Jim Carrey, for instance, I'm not very good at that yet. I can't really do him, but I love the
Uh-huh.
way that he sounds. And I love, obviously, you talk about a legendary impersonator. I mean, Jim Carrey is one of the greats, but I love the way that he sounds. I love the way, uh, even like Adam Sandler's regular speaking voice. It's so just
Uh-huh.
interesting and like gravelly, and I don't know. So the,
Right.
the idea of voice and impersonation and voiceovers and stuff like that, I just have a passion for, not only how I want to sound and just do a good job, but also listening to how other people sound, and I just get a kick out of it. It's just a weird. So to be considered a professional and make my living in that world would be the dream. So that is, yes. So that's the long term goal, would be to get to that point, and hopefully somebody likes how I sound and would think that um, I'd be good for that. And the way I plan on sort of, I guess, achieving some of that in the short term is, yes, I'm going to continue making internet content, but
Mhm.
also there are plenty of, and actually, if there's any people listening to this right now that want to branch into the voiceover world, as I'm literally at the beginning of my journey of this, but is there are plenty of online auditions that you can do. There's websites that have postings basically
Oh, cool.
for that companies put up, and you can audition. But I mean, if you literally just go onto Google and just say Google like voiceover auditions online or something like that, just scroll through all that stuff and just see what the actual legit ones are, and and do it that way. So yeah, I'm gonna make an honest effort of it. That's definitely the plan.
That's
So
awesome. That's really exciting to hear. I'm glad that I know that we've kind of we been talking a little bit the past couple of days, and I mentioned to you personally, but I'll of course mention it on air. Like I'm definitely super excited that you've been able to pick this back up and do something other than work, because it's. I mean, I know from my personal standpoint that you have that creative side of you, and you want to explore some sort of creative outlet, but like work just it can bog you down so much, both mentally and physically.
yeah, and it's not like
It
my job sucks. It doesn't at all. I like my job just fine, but like, is it? It's easier to make excuses to not work on something that you're
right.
passionate about because you're like, oh, I'm busy,
Yeah.
and I am the master of that excuse. I've been using that for 10 years, and
Right.
I finally yeah, with the right influence of my girlfriend and family just being like, hey, dipshit.
Yeah.
You're not that fucking busy. Put your goddamn PlayStation controller down and go do a voice.
Yeah.
Something like that. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely of that mindset where you it can be like you said, it can be very very easy to come up with a million and one excuses to not do something, like, oh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, like I'm mentally drained, I just don't want to do it right now. And it's if you look back on it in hindsight, or if you try and look at it objectively, like it's completely ridiculous why someone would dedicate so much of their time to their job, that why they may like it, they may tolerate it, or straight up hate it. Like, you wouldn't dedicate any of your time to do something that you love. Like, it's totally ass backwards, but at the
mhm.
same time, like, it's a feeling that we all fucking relate to. Like, especially as content creators of any kind, you and we all kind of get stuck in that rut where you know
Oh yeah,
you're
definitely.
you're like, you don't know if you really want to do that, like as a whole, big picture thing, or if even if what you're doing is any good, if people like it, if you're doing it for you, or if you're doing it to kind of lead to the next thing, which will lead to the next thing, which is something that I personally struggle with the podcast for a long time, like, and still kind of struggle with it now, is figuring out where I want it to go, like in the short term and long term. Because still part of me wants to be like, there's no reason that it needs to blow up and I become a household name in the podcasting world. And then there's times where I'm like, I want to be the fucking JRE for nerds. Like, I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
be
yeah,
Joe
yeah.
Rogan for nerds. Like, just talk about everything and anything geek and nerddom
That's awesome,
related.
man. Have you ever tried DMT?
Yes. So I have this buddy, shout out to blah blah blah. He fucking did ayahuasca and ended up simultaneously shitting his pants and throwing up in the
I was
chieftain's
sitting there and
face.
I watched this guy like just shit out of his eyes.
Whoa,
And I was just thinking to myself, like, that's wild, man. Hey,
man, have you ever tried DMT?
pull that up. Pull that up. Pull up
Jamie,
the
can you pull that up?
Jamie, pull up guy shitting out of his eyes. Can you pull Jamie? Okay.
It's monetized, so we can't show it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a shame. Oh
uh
God.
God, yeah, I don't know. It seems like there's a podcasting like unwritten rule where like people don't talk about other people's podcasts
Yeah,
unless like
just don't shit out of your eyes. That's that's
uh
the thing.
but yeah, it's I mean his show has gotten so big to where it's to the point now where it's kind of like meme status where
Oh,
you can
he's incredible. That
yeah, no,
whole
I mean, I love his show. Like, I know any thing, any issues that people have or take with Joe Rogan, like I kind of get, but like he's probably my favorite podcaster. He's definitely not my favorite stand up comedian. Like his stand up to me is like just okay. Like parts of it are funny, but like as far as podcasts go, he is my favorite podcast,
yeah.
simply because he has just the multitude and diverse array of guests that he has on. Like he
Oh yeah.
has doctors, he has comedians, he has scientists, biologists.
Yeah,
He's
and
had
then complete and
Elon
utter
Musk on there. Yeah,
joke people like Alex
right.
Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And he,
garbage
he
people.
right. So he tells you that with that, like it's okay to be multifaceted and have your hand in a bunch of different things, and to that it's okay to sit on a fence for a while, like
Yeah,
to see both sides of an
or eat
argument.
mushrooms with Post Malone.
God damn, like I don't think I've ever
There's
listened to a
aliens in our blood.
I don't think I've ever listened to a podcast where it was like dead air for 3 minutes. Like like
Oh
it was a live
God.
stream. I think, and they were like, so we both have to piss, so we'll be back in a few minutes. And so it was just like, but I wasn't watching the video. I was just listening to it in my car, and I
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
holy shit! Like they've been gone for 3 minutes.
They can do whatever the hell they want.
No,
That's
I
the
mean
point.
Spotify bought his show or the exclusive rights for his show for what, like $2 billion.
Oh, I don't know
Like
if it was that, but it was a lot.
yeah, yeah, it was quite a bit. Don't quote me on that number,
Two
everyone.
billion. Talk. Come on, man.
Um, but no, I mean he is going exclusive with Spotify, and that's a whole thing within itself, or a whole different conversation. Like
You wanna
he-
we've been talking. I mean, we touched on voices and stuff like that. I don't know if you wanted to get into some of the legendary voiceover people that exist out there that are
sure, yeah, let's do it. Let's
um so it's funny, like you think about like who your heroes are in any sort of we were just talking about Joe Rogan a little bit, and in the podcasting world why he's one of the goats, as they say. But for me, and for voices, you think about, and it's so funny when you start using IMDb or Googling like who did the voice of whatever, and you realize that there is this, maybe, like, let's just ballpark it and say there's like 20 to 25 people that do like every voice you've ever heard on anything. And you think about, I'll just go ahead and name drop him now, like Mark Hamill, who obviously got his
right.
start being Luke Skywalker, but then spent the rest of his career as a legendary voice actor. I mean, he's been the Joker of our
Mhm.
childhood and of our adult life. I mean, he's literally embodied the Joker forever. And
Yeah.
but it's not just that. Then you look at like the rest of his resume, and it's incredible. He's literally in everything. I don't know if you ever watched that. What's that? The Abominable Snowman on that show that was on Cartoon Network, the regular show, I think.
Um,
He's in that, and then he's also in Kingdom Hearts. He's Master Eriquist, but then he's also in freaking Avatar: The Last Airbender. He's the Fire Lord.
Jesus.
He was basically the main villain of that show, and he just bounces between all these different characters. I mean, his IMDb page is like reading the freaking Bible. It's just this big, long, and you're just like, whoa. Like the guy is incredible. So it's not just the Joker. The guy does everything. And
Yeah.
then but then you think, and so then, I mean, hell, speaking, I mean, then Kevin Conroy, he was Batman
Right.
for us as kids, and also with the Arkham video. I love how for the Arkham video games, by the way, they basically just grabbed like the Batman the animated series cast and they were like, here, fucking do this. And
Make a video game version.
yeah, make a game. And but I mean, as much as films give you that visual, you know, you see, you know, for a lot of people, Batman is, you know, Michael Keaton or Batman is Christian Bale. And yes, like I like them as Batman, don't get me wrong, especially Michael Keaton because he was the first on, you know, film Batman, let's just say,
Uh-huh.
that made it popular.
Right.
Or hell, if you want to go way back, you know, Adam West was Batman. But
Hmm.
for me, it's like Kevin Conroy is Batman. Kevin Conroy will always be Batman because he's been the voice of him and has embodied him way more times than any of the people I just mentioned. Christian Bale was
Right.
Batman 3 times. Kevin Conroy's been Batman thousands of times.
Yeah,
You know,
he's a fucking beast.
and his voice is just iconic for that. Tara Strong, who's probably the most prolific female voiceover artist, and not only female, just probably one of the most prolific voiceover artists of all time.
Hmm.
And she basically does the entire voice of, or the she does the voice of the entirety of the DC animated universe. I mean, it's just like, hey Tara, we just need you to do fucking all of it, and she's got it. Like she just does. She's been Harley Quinn forever.
Okay.
And she did Harley Quinn. She was in the Powderpuff Girls. She was I think she was Bubbles.
Okay.
I'm gonna misquote in one of someone's be like, that's not who she was. But no, like I mean, and then like My Little Pony, she's like all of that. I mean, it's like again, you IMDb this person, you're like, oh my god, I've been listening to you my whole life. Like
Right.
it, and I think
You
that's what's so interesting about voiceover artists is you do not realize how big of an impact those people have had on your life
right.
because some of your favorite pieces of entertainment or things that make you feel nostalgic from your childhood, it's based on that sound, it's based on that person's voice, and that's I think most people don't even know what these people actually look like, you know.
Yeah.
And they
Did you
are,
ever
go ahead.
did you ever watch that documentary? I think it's called I Know That Voice or something to
Gosh,
that
you know
effect.
what, shame on me because I did not, but I should.
But you know what I'm
um
talking about?
I'm aware of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Like, of course, Mark Hamill is in there. They're like, before we get started, like, we're just gonna go ahead and acknowledge that Mark Hamill is the OG, the goat, et cetera, et cetera.
He's
But like,
ridiculous.
yeah, but the doc is great and basically exactly what you are kind of talking about right now, like illuminating this part of your life that you didn't you knew kind of in the back of your mind or subconsciously, but never really acknowledged that like these people that or these characters that had a big part of or played a big part of your life and your childhood and your early adolescence. You know, there's people on the other side of that thing,
There are
and this is
people, those are actual people, they're, yeah,
yes, and
exactly.
this is what they look like,
Hmm.
and this is what their normal voice sounds like, and the documentary, you know, that it has them on camera, like talking about their experiences and where they got started and stuff, and it's a really cool
Hmm.
doc. So
That's
I'll try
cool.
and
Yeah, I definitely have to
put that
watch
in the
it.
show notes. Yeah, it's fun. When I watched it, it was on Netflix. I don't think it was a Netflix original documentary, but not like that really matters. But um, yeah,
Well,
it was on Netflix when I caught it. So
what's also cool about that is like, yes, we mentioned people that have done cartoon characters and video games, stuff like that, but also think about just the voice of like really basic things like commercials that you've heard,
yeah.
or I mean,
Hey,
for
you've
instance,
done one of those.
yeah, I have long time ago. But movie think about the movie trailers and how they were movie trailers used to be before the before Don De La Fontaine started doing the original. This summer, get ready for the greatest film you've ever heard. Like before you heard something like that, it was literally just like, hey, look at fucking scenes from this movie chopped up. Go watch it. Like
Right.
that's what it was. And then finally, this guy. I mean, the first time you hear this summer, you know that changed how commercials and how movie trailers exist. Was
Right.
now in order for it to be legitimate, you got to have that guy, you know. And
So
Um,
I'm not
Go
sure
ahead.
if that's the same guy that did that did those commercials as this, but there is a very similar guy that does the voiceover work for that oldie but goodie show Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction. Did you watch this show, Andrew? Did you watch it? And it was a late '90s, early
No,
2000s show.
no.
Okay, well, it's so we talked about it on the podcast a couple episodes ago, but we it is like I said, it came out in the very late '90s, and I forget who the host was for the first season, but Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek, he he was the
Oh,
host
it's
for
the
like
guy that was Riker. He was
yeah, Commander
Riker
Riker.
on Star Trek. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but no, so it's not him that's doing like the epic
So,
voiceover for the intro and stuff, but
so
it's
Dave, it actually is Don De La Fontaine. It
is it
actually is
really?
him. Yes,
Yes,
yes, it is him.
yes.
So,
I thought
so
it was him.
just to show you how important
Prolific.
and how yes, that guy was the voice of everything
Yeah,
for a long time. He passed away in 2008. Um, and now there's other
right.
people
I
that have
think
been
that's
able
when they
to
just decided to.
yeah, they're just like, ah, fuck this
Yeah, I
show, we
think
can't
that's
do it
when they.
anymore because he's too good.
Right. Yeah, yeah. We like no one tried to replicate what he was doing, so they just stopped doing that and kind of went back to the old school style of like cutting trailers where it was just scenes from the movie with no
Because if you
voiceover.
notice, that doesn't exist. Yeah, exactly. That type of thing
Yeah.
does not exist anymore. And
Right.
ever
Yeah.
since
It's
and there's people that can do. I mean, I can kind of do it too, but there's other very talented voiceover artists that can do that type of voice. But I think just because he was so iconic that they're like, let's just not do that anymore. Like,
yeah. It's
you know,
also a pretty outdated. I mean because they evolved from
yeah,
that and
yeah,
went to the style of just cutting up a movie into a bunch of different scenes to kind of construct the trailer. It that voiceover thing is unless it's a voiceover from one of the actual characters in the movie, which
right.
is of course something that we see a lot. That voiceover from a third party is if you see that nowadays you're like okay this is super dated because it doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
But it's I mean I was asking like I mean one to kind of confirm if it was that dude that voiced over on Beyond Belief, but like the show itself is actually like really fucking funny. Like I mean it's not meant to be a comedy. Like they have five different um like quote unquote uh true stories like that they get people to like reenactments, and you watch them and at the end they tell you if it was fact or fiction because some are based on true events and some are like made up that like the writers of the show they kind of came made up. And yeah it all feels super fucking dated.
Oh my
Like
god.
you're watching it and like there's dramatic like people falling down the stairs, oh, and it's super campy and it's become my nightly ritual. Like I'll watch like an episode a night. I mean one because there's nothing else to do in this quarantining life, but also it's fun to get a little bit of nostalgia in there
Yeah.
every once in a while. So yeah, if you're if that sounds like something that you'd be into wasting your time with,
Yeah, I can't
it
fucking
is
wait. Anyway.
it is it's a good time. It's definitely one of those shows where it's fun to watch with a group of people and just kind of laugh with your friends because it is kind of campy. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, is there other like OG um, greats when
Oh,
it
like
comes
other
to
so
voice
this one
actors?
this one's a simple one. But Don Pardo, and the reason why that I like this person, he's another old he passed away. He lived to be 96 years old actually.
Holy shit!
He You might know him as the voice of, and I'll try to do him real quick, but it's Saturday Night Live musical guest, the Bee Gees. Like that guy was the
Holy
voice of SNL
wow!
for ever.
basically ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Daryl Hammond does it now, who was on
Okay.
SNL forever. But yeah. So like literally, he's and just for saying the cast. If you remember, like how SNL used to start, and he would literally read all of their, with Jimmy Fallon, Will
R-
Ferrell, like that thing,
yeah.
Chris Kattan. Um, that's another guy where I'm again. It's like I'm just obsessed with how that sounds.
But like
Um,
wasn't he actually like either on stage or off to like
yeah,
stage right or left?
yeah, he was
Like
there.
that
He
wasn't
was there.
a pre-recording. Like he
No,
would say that live
live. Yeah,
as the bands like play the opening
correct,
SNL music. Like
correct.
and it blew my fucking mind the first time I noticed that he actually like it wasn't a pre-recorded thing that he would just go into a sound booth and
Hmm.
record. They would just play it. Like I was like, holy shit, it's the fucking dude that actually did it.
Hmm.
And that's definitely one of those things that kind of opened my eyes and my mind to that other worlds that you don't really think of, that is voice acting, and
Yep.
that there's a physical, tangible person on the other side of that recording.
If you want to
And
go super way back and kind of, if you want to call him the granddaddy of it all, and he was known as the man of a thousand voices. Mel Blanc. He is the voice of the Looney Tunes. He literally did all of them,
did he really?
all of them. Like
Holy shit.
I'm not even exaggerating. And I mean, yes, there's some other people that did like some of them, but like, if you want to see something cool, look up like Mel Blanc on like being interviewed, probably by like Jim, on like the original Tonight Show or
Okay.
you know, uh, whatever. But he just sits there and just goes through them all, and you're like, oh my god, you voiced my entire childhood. Like, if you were, I'm trying to pull up his credits real quick, and there we go. But I mean, you're talking Daffy Duck, you're talking every Bugs Bunny thing ever. That was him. He is all of them. Um, his filmography on IMDb 1,147 credits.
Oh my god.
Um, I mean, like seriously. I mean, so he's the voice of Daffy Duck, Captain Caveman, Barney Rubble. God, I'm like trying. Sylvester, Bugs Bunny, Porky Pig, Foghorn Leghorn, Pepe Le Pew, Marvin the Martian, Speedy Gonzales, Yosemite Sam, the Roadrunner, Wile E.
Oh
Coyote.
my god.
He is every single one of those people. He's also Heathcliff from the Heathcliff show. That was a thing for a while.
Holy
He did
shit.
he did uh
Heathcliff.
everything. He's fucking everybody. So that's the
He's like
original.
cake. He,
And
everything is cake. He
yes,
is
he is that. He
he
is
is
that.
cake.
Yep. So I guess if we had to identify like, Big Papa out of that entire group, that probably would be who it is. You've also got now the entire cast of The Simpsons
Right. I was just about to say, like,
uh,
we could talk a
are
little bit about The Simpsons.
are all incredible performers. Dan Castaneda, who is oh my god, I cannot say names today. I'm a voice actor. Dan Castellaneta, who is Homer Simpson, Grandpa. He does all that, and then Hank Azaria, who is on that show, just does like the rest of the show. He's Chief
Right.
Wiggum.
And then
He's not Apu anymore because they want to make it more representative of an actual Indian person, so he's not going to do that voice anymore. But
sure.
he does all the other side characters, and then the people that do Bart and Lisa are two women, and forgive me for not remembering their names, but they're iconic for just that one voice right there, and they've done other stuff, but
Right.
I think Nancy Cartwright's one of them. Another
Right.
big deal person would be Seth MacFarlane, if you want to call it currently. I mean, he does all of Family Guy, basically. And then two of my favorites
Mm-hmm.
would be John DiMaggio, who... Hold on, sorry. I just want to make sure I name everything besides like the two things that I'm excited for. So, well, the one thing I
That's
love
cool.
him from is from Adventure Time. Adventure Time. He's Jake the dog,
Okay.
which is
Okay.
hilarious in itself. He also voiced, if you ever played Gears of War, he's Marcus Phoenix. He's the main character
Okay.
in that
Cool.
show, and then this guy has bounced between him. He's Bender on Futurama. Um, and
Oh
what's
wow.
great about John DiMaggio, he's even voiced the Joker before in an animated the Under the Red Hood
Okay.
animated movie, Batman movie. He did a very cool version of the Joker in that one. And then,
Interesting.
gosh, I like. Oh well, I can't believe. I mean, I kind of James Earl Jones. I mean, Darth Vader,
Oh yeah.
Mufasa. I mean, Jesus, you know. And then, of course, he was also, if you remember from your childhood, this this is CNN. You know, he was the voice of CNN
Oh
for
yeah, yeah.
a long
Right.
time. And then, if we want to go into more puppets, or actually, should I say Muppets?
Mm-hmm.
Frank Oz. Frank
Right.
Oz voiced
That
pretty much all of them. But then also, most famously, he was Yoda. Frank Oz not only
right.
operated the puppet that was Yoda, but he is also his voice. Um,
Yeah. That
so that's
guy's
just
he
a
was a
name.
fucking beast.
Oh yeah, and that's just a name of a few that stick with me as far as people that I really like. Who am I? Oh, H. John Benjamin. H. John Benjamin, who
Oh
is.
yeah.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how.
One of the most recognizable voices
Well,
ever because
not
he
just
has like
that. It's just he just is himself.
yeah, it's
He
the
doesn't
same
have to
voice.
fucking. He's so that his normal ass speaking voice is so remarkably awesome that he gets to do everything that he does. I mean, it's so funny that Bob from Bob's Burgers, Archer, and the fucking Arby's commercials are the same exact voice, and
Right,
and
exactly.
it's just exquisite. So
Yeah, he is something else. Like I mean, it's and that's got to be great for your voice. Like I mean, I'm sure you have watched several interviews with Seth MacFarlane, and he talks about like the only voice that he gets to do where he doesn't have like vocal strain afterwards is Brian because it's so close to
because
his
it's just
normal
him.
voice.
It's just him. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about like you said a dream job where like you don't have to like do any quote unquote voice acting at all. It's
Yeah,
just your
like,
normal
hi, I'm a
voice.
voice actor, and I just don't have to act at all. Like,
Right, like you might like put a little bit more like inflection in your voice or emphasis on certain words that you would others for other characters, but for the most part, it's like pretty much the same voice for a bunch of different characters.
for
It's
sandwiches.
interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, anyway,
Well, fuck, like, yeah. Well, I think I can't remember when we started recording. I know it's been about an
it's
hour
been a
and a
while.
half now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you kind of have to get to work or start getting
Yeah.
ready, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But yeah, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great. I wish we could
It's
have
been
done this
my
in person,
absolute
but
pleasure.
I'm definitely glad that we were able to make it happen. Period, because it has been far too long, friends,
Yeah.
since you have
Oh, this is
been
great.
on the
No,
show.
I'm
Yeah,
happy to do this, and I can hopefully pop on to another one in the future. So,
yeah, for sure. Do you want to plug your TikTok one more time before we sign
oh
off this
man,
bitch?
yeah, sure. So, yes, you can, if you want to see me doing impressions, voices, and also go on there and like and comment and also request voices so I can learn them. You can find me on TikTok at Don Noleone, DonKnollleone, or you can just search Andrew Knollenberg, my last name spelled Knollenberg. You can go on there and hopefully you'll enjoy it and you can follow me. And that is really the only thing I have to plug right now. Go on TikTok and listen to me. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll drop your handle and your name in the show notes as well, so people will have a reference and a link to click on to get to you as well there, so they don't have to um, type anything out manually. Because we know that we can all be kind of lazy from time to time, me
Listen,
included.
I can't be clicking on all kinds of things, okay?
I got too much time for that. I'm a
I
very
got
busy man.
I have a very busy man. I can't be clicking on stuff.
Awesome. All right, buddy. Well, thanks again for coming on. And listeners, thank you so much. If you've made it this far, as always, thank you. And I am sorry. And we will see you there on another time. And as always, be kind, stay geeky, and eat lots of cheesecake. Bye.